Hey folks, and welcome back to the channel. Today is March 26th, 2025, and we are going to go on a garden tour. Last month, it was probably end of last week of February that we did a garden tour. So I think we're going to do these each month, and then maybe a mid-month update like I did a couple weeks ago, just to show a little bit of progress here and there. But month over month, we're going to start seeing a lot of changes really quickly. So I'm excited to see how this shapes up for not just your eyes, but mine, so I can see the progress as well. So let's get started. Now as we start on bed number 1 and through bed number 9, we got strawberries and they're doing well for the most part. We're starting to see some flowers popping up. Some of the plants are looking a lot healthier than others. They went in at different sizes at different times. So yeah, I can't really expect consistent growth amongst them all, but we're still about a month and a half away from the harvest starting in full swing. So I can't really complain too much about where they're sitting right now. I'll be really interested to see later this year how my change in strawberry strategy comes along, because I'm planning on yanking all the beds out except for 2, leaving those 2 beds to run wild, and then I can put all the rest of the beds into production. Last year and the year before, all of my strawberry beds stayed to the end of the season, so I had to kind of pull them all out and remove plants around all at one time in late October, early November. I didn't like that process. Way too many plants to deal with because they have so many runners popping off. So I'd rather go ahead and just knock it all off in late June, early July. You can see some onions at the far end of this strawberry bed. These are overwintered and they're looking pretty darn healthy. I'm not unhappy with the production on those. I've got 2 volunteer lettuce plants. Happy about that. That coincidentally wound up right in the middle of where an onion would have been, but probably died, and I don't know how he wound up there, but I'm happy to see him. And then a couple of garlic at the end of this strawberry bed, and I don't know why I put those there, but I did, and they're there now, and they look healthy, so I'm happy. Getting further on, this section here, I raked out, and this is going to be my my main beds for tomatoes. I grow a determinate variety of San Marzano. We do a lot with paste tomatoes in the house, very little with, actually we don't do anything with slicing tomatoes, and a little bit with cherry tomatoes here and there, but I might just stick to this variety and use it year round. I say year round, use it during the season this year for my salads as well. But what I'll have to do, since it is determinate, I will plant a separate flat of those in smaller quantities, staggered, so that when they're throwing their flowers and fruit within a few days, I'll have the next ones going. So they'll fruit for about a couple of good weeks all at the same time, and then they die off. So I'll just have a rotation of those. As we come along, I got 2 more empty beds here, and what I think I'm going to do with these, I've got a tray of YOLO Wonder. It's a bell pepper. It's going to go in here. And I think my cucumbers are going to go here. But what I'm going to do for my cucumbers, and I grow the Market More variety, I've noticed the last couple of years that they fruit hard for about a 3-week period, and then boom, they just die off. So that's another one that I'm going to stagger plant. So I'll probably start 2 seeds every 3 weeks. And the healthier of the 2, or both if they're healthy, will come out, and I'll just be trying to get through them as fast as I can, because they do fruit really hard, really fast, and then kaput. Red Weatherfield is my onion here. I've got a few sweet Spanish onions interplanted here and there because they were sown in January, and these Red Weatherfields, the bigger ones, they were overwintered. So the sweet Spanish will catch up. I'm not concerned about that, and we'll have a nice little haul from that. This bed was my asparagus bed, and still is. These asparagus down the middle, only 6 of the 13 crowns came back, and I'm surprised because all 13 looked really strong at the end of the season last year. Not thrilled with that. I decided to let all these go this year and next year. I think in 27 I might pop some spears off for food. I'm not thrilled with the asparagus experiment, to be honest. It's very little food, and it seems to take up quite a bit of space. The early harvest is nice, but I would almost rather forego that for something else. What you'll see I did in this bed, all along the edge a couple days ago, I transplanted greens. So we've got some Cherokee blue mustard, some green wave mustard, some red Russian kale, some tatsoi, some baby bok choy, a couple other kinds of mustard in here. This is gonna be a colorful bed. This is gonna be gorgeous. I can't wait to see this thing pop off in a few weeks. And the amount of greens I'm gonna get out of here, I mean, it's gonna be pound after pound after pound. I'm excited. That's just incredible looking. Assuming they survive. Not a safe assumption right now since I still have the skunk rooting around the garden. But it hasn't been popping the beds. For the most part, it pops the pathways. I think we're coming to the end of my challenge with that, but each morning I get up and I find a new area that they pop through the underneath the chicken wire through the welded wire. So we're still working through that. And the blackberries are just incredible. They've all broken dormancy at this point. The first one to break was the Primark Freedom at the end. Love that plant over there. You'll notice that my little row that I keep against the fence, even these little rinky-dink guys that just got popped out, they've got all new growth. I don't know about this little guy here. Nope, I take that back. Even this little thing when I pulled him out of the ground just to see if he had a root about a month and a half ago, and he had the tiniest little white root popped off in the base, and I felt so bad about disturbing him. But now all of a sudden I'm looking and I've got legitimate growth there. So again, it's gonna be a couple years for him, but he's gonna look just as good as some of these other ones down the way. And that's, again, this is unused space in the garden. It's a pathway next to a fence. And I mentioned before in my previous update that what I'm gonna be doing for these is no more than 2 canes, 2 to 2.5 feet tall, top them hard. When the lateral branches come off, 2.5 feet for them or less, probably 2 feet, pop them off at that edge and just let them really just thicken up. Even this guy is a little long for my taste on this plant, but I didn't have a strategy in mind for it, so I just let it go this year. Next year, when the Primacanes this year are popping off, we'll go ahead and do a much better job of pruning them and keep the plants nice and compact. So down this row, starting here, in a previous video I noted that for the video I planted my blue potatoes up this section right here, and they're about a foot apart, and I was wondering if they were doing anything because it's been about a month, and I dug them out a little bit to see if I saw any shoot system, and I did. Now the potatoes themselves were sitting in storage for a long time. They were a little wrinkled. They grew shoots that were about a foot long that I popped off twice, and I realized they just had to get out. So I put them in the garden earlier than I wanted to, but I did need to get them out because I was afraid they were going to truly kind of turn to mush inside. And we got a robin over there in the distance. Hello, Mr. Robin. The blueberries are doing well. I think for the most part, I'm still going to pop the flowers off these. Pink lemonade is looking a little on the small side still, as is. I think this is powder blue. Yeah, this is powder blue. A little small. They're definitely going to lose their flowers when they open up a little bit. Some of these other ones, these other 3, I'll probably let some of the flowers stay on them so we can get a couple of berries. But ultimately, I want to drive that energy to the root system. Really let that thing grow out some more. Again, more strawberry beds on the middle section. And in case you haven't picked up on it yet, the way this garden is set up, it's 8,100 square feet. And from that corner, we've got 16 beds prior to the blackberries, another 16 beds down the middle, and 16 running east to west in various sizes. So sometimes the pathways are a little wider, sometimes the beds are a little wider. But ultimately, it's all about standard, anywhere between 20 to 25 feet long, 30 to 36 inches wide. Not overly standardized. They were that way, but the pathways wound up creeping in over time, and I'm getting over that. So more strawberry beds. These are all going to come out at the end of June. I have a succession plan already set up for that. And then we've got a couple of open beds that need to get filled in this spring. This is going to be my okra bed this year. And this is going to be my lettuce bed. Now, my lettuce has been a horrible fail right now because all the seed that I had on hand, I think must have been bad. I've got a few spinach in the back of the bed right there that I'm not unhappy with how they transplanted. I lost one of 12. Spinach is, I've always had a hard time propagating spinach from seed. I'll put a tray of 48 out in the exact same compost, and all of a sudden 12 will germinate and the other 36 just never do anything. So I haven't quite figured out why it's so spotty. If you know, please comment below, because I'd love to figure out why I'm struggling with spinach so much when I have quite a bit of success across a number of other plants, but not spinach. Now this is my carrot bed. I've got 3 rows going across. I say across, going all the way down. Now I have to keep this covered with a row cover because these pathways to the east and west of this bed are prime real estate for that skunk to pop. So he actually did dig up a little section in the carrot bed. I didn't lose. There's about a foot long section on the right hand row that got disturbed. I smoothed it back out. It looks like I got some coverage in there, but I don't know if because it got disturbed, if those are going to tap through correctly. We'll see as it goes along. Right now, I'm more staring down the barrel of the fact that I've got a lot of dense planting here. I don't even know what that is there. So I'm going to have a lot of thinning to do. Now, I don't mind thinning because what I'll do is as they size up, I'll start thinning them out. I'll soak them in water to get the compost off, and then I just mince them up for my salad. So, and as they get bigger, I just get more food out of them. I just try to get them out before they get too big so there's not too much competition as I'm trying to grow a pretty good sized taproot for each of these. And then we've got this next bed looking nice and pretty. And this is a sugar snap pea. I think Sugar Ann is the variety. I bought a pound. This is a 1/4 pound. So I was planning on sowing this 1/4 pound, another 1/4 pound in the fall, and then the same for next spring and fall. So a pound will last me 2 years. I may save some seed from that at some point, but I haven't decided if I want to go through the hassle. Garlic bed number 1. This was the trial bed based upon the fact that my garlic didn't come out clean in 2024 when I harvested in early June. It didn't store well either. By October, when I was ready to put this out, the cloves and the bulbs were not looking that healthy. But I still wanted to gamble on it because it was all that I had, and I wasn't going to invest in 800 cloves, which probably would have been 150 fresh bulbs. I wanted to see if this would work first. And it's looking a little dry right now. We did have some rain yesterday, but this is a bed of direct sowed beets. I use exclusively the Kyogia beet, so it's the pink and white candy stripe. Love that variety. I had greens all last year when I planted these in the spring, and then I had the bulbs coming out of the ground anywhere between, I think it was probably early May, all the way to early December when I harvested the rest and put them in storage. I can see I got pretty good germination there from a direct sow, and I've got a bunch sitting in cell packs over at the potting shed that I was going to plan on using just to patch any holes in here. I'll do that, but I'm going to have way more than that, so I'll have to find some more space for beets, and I can never grow too many beets, so that doesn't bother me at all. Brazen Greens mix. It's a packet of seeds that I got from Sow True Seed. I direct sowed here. I also sowed undercover as well to patch holes in this one. I have great germination there. I'm going to have to thin out because I don't like my brassicas as more than one plant. I like to grow big, hefty plants for my brassicas, like the mustard, the kale, the bok choy, the tatsoi, and those varieties are all part of that. That's going to be a gorgeous bed when they start growing up. And then we got 2 beds of fava beans. I posted a video of me sowing these a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago. I did direct sow out here, and I did undercover sow as well to patch holes. Everything that germinated undercover has already been transplanted out to patch the holes here. I still have a few more. I did decide to throw a few more seeds in cell packs. They'll grow out and they'll finish patching out here as well. Whether or not they mature at the same rate remains to be seen because it is warmer, but they are going to be later. We'll see. Playing it by ear. If I have a few holes in the garden bed, well, not much I can do about it at this point, other than what I am doing. More strawberries. Just transplanted these radishes. This is early Scarlet Globe. I have more sown under cover, and I'm going to fill this entire bed. Those will probably come out all at the same time. I'll store some of the greens, and the roots for the most part are going to be fermented. I'll keep some of the roots for fresh salad eating, but I'm running out of fermenting vegetables from the winter time. We fermented the watermelon radish, the daikon radish, and beets, and the only thing I have left now are beets, and we're fresh eating and cooking those as well, but I need to get some more fermenting vegetables. And this bed, I think this is going to be my first sweet potato bed in this area here. I haven't quite decided yet. I was thinking about doing a sweet potato bed early, and then when these first three garlic beds here come out, having sweet potatoes on those following, so that I can start eating sweet potatoes earlier, even if they're not entirely cured. I'm fine with that. If they're a little starchy, that doesn't bother me at all. But I also know that when they run pretty crazy, pretty fast, and I think a lot of it depends on what I decide to follow up the radishes with. If it's something that's going to be small and compact, the sweet potatoes are going to overtake it, so I've got to be a little careful with that. 4 garlic beds. This one seems to be a bit of a laggard right now, and I'm not quite sure why, but these are looking pretty good. I see a little bit of dieback on the lower leaves, and it feels like it's kind of early for that, but I'm trying not to get too paranoid about this crop not coming out of the ground clean. So I'm just going to keep my hopes up, and I'm going to keep weeding around, keep them clean. I'm not going to water them heavily because I don't want to add a rot issue, because that might have been something I messed up last year. I say I messed up last year. We had a really heavy rain prior to the harvest, maybe a couple weeks earlier, and I also had a pretty heavy mulch layer of cut grass on top. Not a real heavy mulch layer, but heavy enough to where I probably retained way too much water. Now I'm gun shy for that practice, so I'm going to leave them as is and let nature do the irrigation, and I'm just gonna step back on those and wait for harvest. We will get scapes in about a month or so that's pretty exciting. But I just really want those bulbs to come out clean, so that my efforts that I took over the past few years in building my seed stock up for garlic wasn't a waste of time. And then we've got 6 beds of potatoes. We've got, wow, that's some wind coming through now. We've got the red potatoes, Yukon Gold, Kennebec. And I was curious to know if any of these were starting to push out their shoot system. So I dug into the reds a little bit, because they were a day ahead of time, and I did notice something popping up there. So I recovered that one, and yeah, I'm expecting in the next 2 weeks we're going to see quite a bit of green in this area. So the mid-April update's going to have quite a bit for you to see. And then this bed here was supposed to be my poblano bed. Now, the poblano seeds that I sowed that were saved in 2023, they never popped up. So I guess I didn't do a good job saving those. So I'm trying with my 2022 save seed, which I think actually produced my 2023 crop, but those haven't popped up yet either. And I would have thought, it's been a handful of days, that they would have shown something, but nothing yet. Not going to worry about it. If I don't get poblanos this year, then I could use the space for beets. I have so many beets in reserve right now that I'd almost rather give that space to that crop. It's personally a more valuable crop to me, the beets are, than the poblanos, but I would prefer the diversity. And now we've got a greens bed. And God, isn't that gorgeous? So we've got, I think we've got 4 types of mustard. We've got tatsoi, bok choy, and red Russian kale. And I just see so much visual potential in that. And I ran a row of onions right down the middle as well, because I had the seedlings on hand. And I'm just super excited to see how this bed goes. It's going to look really similar to the one that we saw earlier in the video with the asparagus. The only difference is the center crop running is onion instead of asparagus. And then this bed is, again, running a straight row of onion through the middle with 1 asparagus in the middle, because this was supposed to be another asparagus bed, but those crowns didn't pan out this year. Decicio broccoli. Now, I actually sowed a tray where half of it was Decicio, half was Waltham, and the Waltham had 0% germination, and the Decicio had 95%, where I was popping them out and moving them to empty cells. So I wound up with 40 plus plants of Decicio, no Waltham. I'm absolutely fine with that. We'll see how it plays out, and then we'll try Waltham, maybe some fresh seed in the fall. And the raspberries. I'm still waiting for them to break dormancy because this is so these canes that you see right now, those are all last year's March, April growth push out. It grew through the season. I thought it was supposed to fruit in September. It didn't because the variety is heritage. So technically that would have been the primocane. Technically this would be the floricane. If it is going to fruit at all, it should be in late June, early July. And if it does nothing, these plants are coming out. I'm done fighting this plant. I'd rather start from scratch. And today I gambled because I had this open space right here. And I'm looking at it saying, what do I do with the space that big? And I said, well, I raked back the dry wood chip on the top. And because I've had like 3 or 4 years of wood chip here breaking down, it's a really loamy surface. And I've got this one particular, this is a fig, and it's Celeste. Last year I propagated during the late summer, so around mid-September, 32 of these from my plant. Because Lazy Dog Farms noted that he has really great success propagating when things are still growing a bit. And so I wanted to try his method out. And lo and behold, I had 28 of 32 just sticking these cuttings without rooting hormone into homemade compost in various size pots and bringing them inside. I won't be able to do that on a large scale because I think you need to have a heated greenhouse to make sure that they don't get popped. We had too many nights going into the teens. So if these in their tender state, since they never lignified, they would not have made it through the winter. But inside they did just fine. They have a bit of a root system, and since I was a little on the antsy side today, I wanted to get him in contact with really rich soil, and that's what this is. And this spot looks perfect for a fig. My 3 chokeberry plants, and they're breaking dormancy and just looking so pretty. And this one I'm going to keep a really tight eye on this year because last year I just kind of neglected this corner. It had some Bermuda grass overrunning. I didn't make it a priority crop. But this year, now that root system's getting really established, I think the fruit's going to be pretty phenomenal. So I know that when this fruits, you got to wait until it almost starts rotting a little bit on the plant. And at that point, you start pulling them off. And I'm going to make more of an effort this year for this one. Super nutritious crop, apparently. My elderberries, Bob Gordon, and Wildwood. Bob Gordon, today I took a 6-foot cutting off the plant, and I'm attempting to do exactly with him what I did with the figs in sticking a cutting that's in the growth phase as opposed to the dormant phase. And I got 8 cuttings off of them, stuck them in number 1 size nursery pots, and we'll see where that one goes. I'm pretty excited for it. It was a nice little experiment. At the end of my tomato beds, at least these 2, since I ran out of potatoes. Did I say tomato? These are potato beds. At the end of the bed, since I ran out of seed potatoes before I got to the end, I saw this nice little spot. I had this plant. In he went. This is green wave mustard. I picked up a pack of these seeds from So True about a year ago, maybe a little over a year, for the scientific reason that they were on sale. And I love this variety. I have no idea why they were clearing out of them. They were clearing out of that and Cherokee Blue, and both were phenomenal for me. And at the end of this bed, we got a red Russian kale in there. And the one cool thing about planting things out just a little bit earlier than the overall beds when you have spots to fill is these 2 plants here are going to be well ahead of those in their development, so I'll be able to eat from them earlier. And again, that was more of a gamble on my side because I kept the other ones a little more protected. I know that I exposed the plants, planting them out early to the elements, but the risk reward was worth it for me to get some early food. This I just raked out the other day. I don't know what's going to go there other than the fact that I might extend out the blackberry bed that runs along the north end of the garden. All of those except one have broken dormancy, so I'm super thrilled with how that's working out. I just don't know what I'm going to put here. My other thought was I may get a couple of gummy berry plants and pop them in there to keep sort of the motif of fruit which runs along this L shape, because we've got the berries running. I patched that spot with the fig, and yeah, a goomy berry there and a goomy berry there of 2 different varieties might work out really well. I could see myself doing that. I've got in here, this was a cutting that I took last year from my Violet de Bordeaux fig, and it actually did root, and I put it out in late fall, and I don't think it's going to make it. I think it probably got popped by too much cold. I should have put him under cover because he didn't lignify. I'm waiting to see if it decides to push something out of the ground this year. I'm not anticipating so if it does, it stays, and the goomy berry experiment, that can still work. They're pretty big plants. I was about to say if I put one there and put one there, but they're gonna be pretty sizable, so I might not be able to do that. My bet is he's not gonna make it. If he doesn't, then the goomies go in. One thought I'm having for next year is those 2 beds over there that have the greens and the broccoli, since that asparagus bed is probably gonna be a fail long term. I mean, it was supposed to be a full asparagus bed, but now it's not gonna be. Since it's not, I was thinking about muscadine grapes in those 2 beds. One variety of the, 2 different varieties for a little bit of cross-pollination. But I think that might work out really well because it works on the western side of the garden because it'll probably be a pretty dense canopy. And you know what? I don't think it would really matter. Since I was thinking about the sun, the way it goes off to the west. But I think it's going to be a nice little spot for muscadines. If any of y'all grow muscadines, let me know below, because I'd like to get some advice on what to do with those. I watched some videos on it, but I wouldn't mind hearing firsthand from some of y'all who are watching what that might be, as far as an experience goes. Now here's something that's going on that's pretty fun. These are, if I'm not mistaken, rogue sunflowers from a sunflower that I had in this area here. 2 years ago, my neighbor, she had a huge sunflower that she was not a fan of because it was growing in a clump instead of a stalk. And she asked if I would dig it out, if I had a place for it. So I said, sure. So I put it on the north side of the garden, right at that T-post. And it was a big clump of sunflowers. I have no issue with that at all for where it was in the garden. Now, it went to seed. Last year, I found 3 little seedlings in that area, and I thought to myself, oh, those are weeds. I'm like, no, those are probably sunflowers. So I popped them out and put them 1, 2, 3 with a little bit of space, and they grew 3 beautiful plants. I let it go to seed again, so now I'm expecting to find a bunch of them around here, and I am starting to see them. Got one there, got one there, got one there, there. Yeah, they're getting all over. So I will pull those out, and what I'm thinking about doing with them, what I was thinking about doing with them was as they came out, I was going to put them in pots, root them out a bit, and then on the outside of the garden, I was going to pull back the wood chip and put them in there. But being that I had to put an apron of chicken wire to keep the skunk out, to try to keep the skunk out, I kind of lost my planting surface there. So I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do with these sunflowers. I really do want to make use of them though. And the blackberries, like I said, these are just looking phenomenal. Nice and small. They came out as suckers last year. They went into pots. They rooted out in the pots for a month or so. And then I put them in here in the fall. And they've all but one woken up. Even the one who hasn't woken up. This little guy here. I dug around his base a little bit. He still may throw off some growth. And if he doesn't, I've got plenty in reserve. That sucker's popping up from the other ones. I can always just replace it. But this is another area that I'm going to keep them nice and compact because I do not want to deal with the trellising system. And I think I'm going to like the aesthetic a lot more of seeing just a couple of canes with short lateral branches dominating the landscape on the north end. I think it's going to be so pretty. So yeah, this is where we stand right now. I am really I'm excited to see the April update as things move along. Got to keep transplanting, got to keep things damp. We're starting to come into that time of year here where we seem to get hot and then cold, but it really dries out quickly because we had a super wet February, we had a super wet winter and a cold winter, but all of a sudden coming into the season for the last few years here, rain becomes a bit of a scarcity for us. So I got to keep things watered in a little more heavy than I usually would, but I don't think that's going to be any bit of a difficult task. So I really appreciate you taking the time to watch today. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. Feel free to like and subscribe. click the bell for notifications, and comment with any questions. I really want to hear what y'all have to think about this, and with whatever y'all are growing, I'd love to hear about that as well. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.